I call the Committee of the Whole Budget Workshop to order. We have a member that is participating remotely. Deputy Mayor Hammond is participating in this meeting remotely. Deputy Mayor Hammond, are you there?
Yes, I am.
In accordance with RSA 91A2, 3A, was it reasonably impractical for you to be physically present at this meeting?
Yes.
And what shall be stated in the minutes?
Illness.
I find it as not reasonably practical for Deputy Mayor Hammond to be physically present at this meeting. In accordance with RSA 91A23C, please identify any persons present at the location from which you are participating in this meeting.
None.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the meeting order. Please stand for the pledge. Councilor Walker, you lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, roll call. No, he's not here.
Counselor Credo.
Present.
Counselor Deja
Here.
Counselor Horn.
Here.
Counselor Fitzpatrick is excused. Counselor Fontenot.
Present.
Counselor Herman.
Present.
Counselor Carolian is not present. Counselor Richardson.
Present.
Counselor Sullivan.
Present.
Counselor Turner.
Present.
Counselor Walker.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hammond.
Present.
Mayor Callahan.
Present, we have a quorum. Public input. If there's anyone from the public that wants to come up and talk specifically about this workshop on the budget, any item in the budget, please come up now and state your name and address in 5 minutes. Hearing that, we'll move on to the budget deliberations and adjustments as a house cleaning. I have two out of the general fund. The under emergency management on page 88 in the O&M, the overtime-related account. The proposed city manager's budget was $128,042, and to decrease that amount by $76,042. Revised budget amount is $23,958. This reduces the emergency management overtime-related benefits. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Sullivan, before we vote?
No, sir. How we determined that was the analysis that Chief George performed on the maximum revenue that they're anticipated to receive for the emergency management exercise, and the expenses should equal the revenues. They shouldn't be expending more than what that incoming revenue is, so that's the difference.
Thank you. We have a motion and second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Horn.
Yes.
Counselor Credo.
Yes.
Counselor Richardson.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Deja
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot.
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yes.
Counselor Hammond.
Yes.
Counselor Turner.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Callahan.
Yes, the motion carries. Okay, and this one, again, is another adjustment, more housekeeping than anything, but does put more money into the, does reduce. General fund, water fund, and sewer fund. This is on the Finance Department, O&M page 54, under full-time salaries and benefits. The city manager's proposed budget was finance director allocated at 100%. This is going to decrease the allocations by 20% to $39,044. The revised budget amount of salaries and benefits is reduced by 20%. The allocation should be 80% to the general fund, 20% to the water fund, 10% to the water fund, 10% to the sewer fund. The reclass salary benefits is $19,522 to the water fund and $19,522 to the sewer fund. Do I have a
I'll move to make the changes stated.
Second.
any discussion? Hearing that, all those, roll call.
Counselor Richardson.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Credo.
Yes.
Counselor Deja
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yes.
Counselor Horn.
Yes.
Counselor Turner.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot.
Yes.
Counselor Hammond.
Yes.
Mayor Callahan.
Yes, the motion
Motion passes.
carries. And those are just two minor adjustments. They do help. I'll turn it over to any discussion or adjustments on the budget that any councilors would like to discuss. Counselor Sullivan, then Counselor Herman.
Thank you, Your Honor. So are we taking motions to make changes to the budget? Is that what we're
Whatever,
doing?
yes, we can
Yep.
make, yeah, it's called, yeah, deliberations and adjustments.
Yep,
Sure.
okay. Yeah, so I went through this, and I know that the Public Works Department came in last Friday, and they were talking about moving that one position from part-time to full-time. They said they did that with previous positions. They hadn't done that. I mean, they had done it to the other ones. They said there was still some turnover. One position in the budget that the city manager excluded, that from my experience, I think would be valuable to the city, is that upgrade of the part-time recreation department staff to full-time. And since we did that with the Public Works last round, I was going to propose that we fund that Public Works upgrade from part-time to full-time to a half year. So start it halfway in, and do the same for the rec, so that way both of those positions could move up and both start as half-year funding. So I'm trying to find where that is on the pages.
Yeah, and did you fill out the adjustment form? This- No?
Do I have an adjustment form? Where would I
Yeah,
get
you
it?
sent them to, yeah. You sent them to us. That's a,
I can fill it out.
That's all right.
Do it.
I included in the budget memo a link to all those forms, but I apologize, the first memo I sent out, the links were broken. I fixed them, and the links are there, but I can email out budget adjustment forms. But the links in the finance memo should work, and you should be able to access those. One for O&M and one for CIP.
Yeah.
so were you looking at issues and options, or were you looking for
Yeah.
issues and
Yes.
options? Under Public Works?
Yeah, so it's going to be, the one I'm proposing to go to fund half-year funding is on page 42. It's public and buildings and grounds, part-time to full-time labor. Right now, it's 53,706. So if you're proposing to obviously half that, whatever that number is. That's included. I can't, my computer's not working.
26,853.
Yep. And then there would be a change, they were looking to fund, so the recreation program support staff is 46,140. So, as I said previously, looking, if I'm gonna propose to add stuff, I'm looking to remove stuff. In a somewhat equivalent amount, if you were to fund that recreation program support staff on page 47, that would result in 2370, I think. 23,000, yeah, 70. So it should be a net reduction, I believe.
Okay, so, just for clarification, I might have heard you wrong. That position was excluded, and you want to put it in the budget?
For half a year, yes. I've been to the rec center, I think as the city continues to grow, that's a valuable resource to the city. I do know that the people that are there now work pretty hard, they do a lot. The person that attends the person that attends the desk and stuff there has a lot to do, more than just sit at the desk, I'll tell you that.
I think the first thing we probably should do is divide the question, just separate these. And I think that's probably easiest for accounting purposes. So the first one is you want to, go ahead, I don't want to speak for you. The first one is the Public Buildings and Grounds Division, correct?
Correct, yeah. In essence, it's going to take one that was funded for the full year, moving from part-time to full-time, and instead do two positions that are going to move from part-time to full-time. So that way, both departments can get that increase in a personnel. And it should result in a slight negative balance, like,
Okay, so this is, okay. All right, so that'll be your motion on the first.
So the first one is negative 26,853.
correct. So 26,853. So I propose you make a motion. I make a motion to fund, I don't know how you want to refer to it, if it has a number. It's on page 42. So it is, yeah, they don't really have a number associated with them. So it's called the DPW General Fund, Public Buildings and Ground Division, convert remaining laborer position from part-time to full-time. That's the title. So I make a motion to fund that for half of a year instead of a full year as the city manager proposed, which should change it by that number that Counselor Walker said.
26,853 is half the 53,706.
Okay, so we're clear. So the clerk is clear. We just, we're straight on that number, what that number will be now? Mr. Sullivan, you got that number?
Yeah, the motion is to, instead of increasing it for a full year at the 56,000, just allow a half year, so the reduction is 26,853. So the motion is a reduction of the operating 2653 related to the public buildings and grounds full-time laborer, instead of full year, 1/2 year.
Okay. You got it. Is there, Counselor Fidel?
Do we need a second? Do
Yeah, we need a second.
I'll second it, and then I have a question.
Discussion, go ahead, Counselor Fidel.
So, just to clarify, that one is already a part-time position. They were requesting it to be moved to full-time. The city manager had included that. You're requesting to exclude that. Exclude that increase from part-time to full-time.
Not correct. Delay it by 6 months, correct? Have it start January
I see.
1st instead of July 1st.
Okay, the city manager had approved it to be included for a full year. Correct. I have a second part of my question is, when you change that, does that directly divide the benefits package in half too?
And that was,
Yeah, essentially what will happen is that just starts on January
It'll
1st
become
instead of
full-time
July.
January
So
1st.
instead of needing the full 50,000 or 56, whatever it is, we only need half of that.
Got it.
Counselor Walker?
this is moving a part-time to a full-time. That was what was requested. By cutting it in half and starting at half year, does that mean that person doesn't have a job July 1 and he doesn't have a job until January 1st?
No.
Counselor Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan, Director. I'm going to get it
No,
right.
the position would stay part-time until January 2026. At that point, it can go full-time. That's why we only
Wanna
need
make sure
half
we're
of
not giving the guy a 6 month
those salary and benefits of putting it to full-time.
Counselor DeJarbois.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can hear from either the city manager or Director Norse on, the impact on this position, right? I mean, we are, this was approved with a plan. Presumably, there's retention implications. We want to keep somebody happy, keep them from leaving. So I'd prefer we not meddle with that plan, but I'd like to hear what the impact would be from a personnel standpoint.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to ask if Deputy CEO Conley has any comments to add, especially with the person in the position being part-time and then having that conversion have partway through a year, and then also Director Norse, as you requested.
Thanks.
So the current staff member that is in that position would like to go to full-time. Right now, covering hours, additional hours for someone that is out. So the interest is there. And to remind, Director Norse did mention that that is the position that is a constant turnover because of the part-time status.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that. I think at the budget retreat or whatever it is, we did ask about that, how that related for the previous position, and the response was, that's the intent, and there still is turnover. So I'm not sure that solved the problem. But I'm also not saying to do it, I'm just saying to delay it for 6 months so that the other position, who I'm sure also would like to be elevated from part-time to full-time, could have the same benefit.
Go ahead, Mr. Norse.
From a financial standpoint, I really can't, I can't weigh in. From a functional standpoint, it would be best to advance that now. But in looking long-term and into the future, my big deal is getting it full-time. So I'm always looking down the road. Whatever you need to do to make full-time happen, that works for us.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Fontenot,
Yes.
Counselor Richardson,
No.
Counselor Credo,
No.
Counselor Turner,
No.
Counselor Herman,
No.
Counselor Carolean, Counselor Sullivan,
Yes.
Counselor Dejevois,
No.
Counselor Hammond.
No.
I say no.
No, he said no.
Counselor Horn,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
No.
Mayor Callahan.
No.
That's 3 to 8 fails.
Okay. We'll take up your second. Do you want to increase out? Do you want to go ahead with your second motion? You're all set.
Yeah,
Is that
so
what-
I have another thing to remove, so yeah.
Well, what about your second?
Yep, let's do the second one. yeah,
All right,
add
let's
that.
go with that. Go ahead, state your motion.
I'd like to make a motion to move the recreation facilities and operations attendant position, which was excluded from the city manager's budget. So that would be adding an amount of 46,140,00. And I'll do full year.
Which page was that?
It's on page
47.
47.
What was the amount?
46,140.
Ooh,
That's the increase.
well,
Is there a second? I hear no second on that motion.
I second it.
You do? Who seconds it? Counselor Herman. Okay. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Fontenot,
No.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Horn,
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
yes.
Counselor Credo,
Yes.
Counselor Turner,
Yes.
Counselor Richardson,
No.
Counselor Dejevois,
No.
Counselor Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor Callahan.
No.
7 to 4.
The motion passes. So 46,140 is added to the budget.
One
Go
more.
ahead.
Would somebody else want to go, or?
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Okay. The
Just
other
tell
one
us
I
the
have
page.
to account for that and towards the veterans credit that I'm seeking to get in there. I'd like to propose to change the police department's request for their vehicle replacement, which is listed at $320,000.
Page.
FY '26.
Is that under the CIP?
That's what I'm asking, yeah. Can we change that?
You can, but doesn't
It
affect
comes
the
out of
budget.
O&M cash.
No. If it's cash, yes.
Comes out of O&M cash. Is that correct, city manager?
Yes.
So I'd like to change that to remove one. Oh, I have an alternative, so we can remove the backline cruiser,
Page.
page 31.
Okay.
If I do the math right, so my motion will change based on the math. So it says the backline car is 38.5, plus the equipment to outfit cost for backline is 16, so that results in, I did the math here, 54.5. So I guess the first question is, are those two tied to each other? So if you remove the backline car, do you get both of those expenses?
Yes, you would. That's the equipment for the backline car.
Is there a second on his motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, before we get into discussion, we'll call the chief up to hear his view.
Could we clarify what page we're on? Is that
I said
31?
just-
31.
In the CIP?
Yeah, CIP.
Give away.
Which page?
31.
Page 30.
Oh, I see, it's up here.
So if you remove the backline vehicle, we wouldn't need the equipment for it. But this vehicle was a replacement for, last year during the budget process, there was a plan for parking enforcement and increasing our parking enforcement staff, which was done. There was no vehicle put in last year's budget for our parking staff to get around to some of the outskirt areas. So I took one of my current vehicles that I had in my fleet and retrofitted it for parking enforcement. So I took it away from my detectives and administrators to put to parking for them to get around. This backline vehicle was to backfill that one.
So essentially, this is to address the parking enforcement increase that we've done.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the chief when he's up here? Council Sullivan?
Yep. So I'm just, can you relate to us how much of an inconvenience that was? How much services were not able to be provided this year because of that?
It
Could you
varies.
could you get through another year without that backup vehicle?
Can we do it? Yes, we can do it.
'Cause my alternate proposal was to remove one of the 3 cruisers for considerably more expense, which is 86.9, so. Which we
I
could
would-
get 3 for 1 on that, basically, so.
Yeah, I would caution against removing frontline vehicles. We'll order them in July, and by the time we see them outfitted in December, they'll all be over 100,000 miles. And I'll invite anybody to come drive a cruiser with 100,000 miles on it. They're
Done it.
not like a
Done
normal
it.
car.
Smaller towns go much higher
Council
than that.
Fontenot?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Chief, when the new cruisers go online and those frontline vehicles hit 100,000 miles and you take them out of service, are they repurposed, are they sufficient enough to be repurposed into a parking enforcement vehicle or detective's vehicle?
They could be repurposed. We stopped doing that years ago. We used to take our frontline vehicles off the front line and move them to the back line, but they get used very well on the as a frontline vehicle. So when they go to the back line, our maintenance costs go up. So now every couple of years, we would have to cycle those out.
Question? No? Go.
Those vehicles are still usable.
Yes.
And these backline vehicles don't get any miles on them.
Yeah, a backline vehicle will last for 10 years.
Exactly. So a vehicle with 100,000 miles, even if it's a little worn, it still has some life left in it. The car I drove here tonight has 210,000 miles on it, 17 years old, and it goes just fine. So I think we could do without that vehicle.
Would you still need, can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
You still want to ask a question? Go ahead.
Yep. Could you, so it sounds like if that was the case, taking one of the ones that was moved out from the front line to the back line, you would still need the, what is it, 16,000 to outfit that?
I would have to get a rough quote on what we would need for equipment, because when we take a frontline vehicle and we switch it out, we try to repurpose all the lights that we can. So I would have to buy a light package. Probably that 16,000, I could do it for that.
That's the follow-up of Council Richardson. So when you have a full-time cruiser, you don't put those in the back line anymore because they're over 100,000 and they're beat up.
Correct.
So you have when you say backline cars, you're talking about like I call them the Ford Escorts, whatever those are, right?
We're buying Ford Escapes.
Yeah, Ford Escapes. So those Ford Escapes, they go way over 100,000 miles before you turn them in?
Yeah, we haven't, we're in the first round of Escapes. We had bought Fusions and Focuses before that, and they were getting over 100,000 before we trade them in.
All right. Back to the efficiency question. Safe to say, on average, you were down 6 officers throughout the year? I mean, I know it fluctuates.
It fluctuates. I would say the average is 3 to 4.
Okay, so if you had a position to fill, you're going to fill it for your patrol versus one of those detective positions, correct?
Correct.
So what's your outcome looking for 25, 26? Are you close to being full staffed right now?
We gave 3 final offers, and I have 3 positions that will be open that I have actually 4 people in backgrounds for right now.
Okay, so it's safe to say that in a few months, you could be, knock on wood here, you could be fully staffed, so.
Correct.
That need for that extra cruiser is a need now versus last year when you were down 4
Yes.
or 5 officers, you could get away with it because it was an admin position, correct?
Correct.
All right, thanks. Any more discussion?
But do we need to change it to put the 16 back in?
Director Sullivan?
You can modify that. You can say you only want to cut the 38,500. You can include the outfitting equipment. Whatever you.
Okay.
whatever
So I'd like
you-
to amend my motion to be 30, so to reduce that number by 38,500.
Is there a second?
Second.
This,
It's actually also, it
what's
just
that?
has to be amendable to that correction.
Who, did Mr. Richardson?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for catching that. Okay, now we do discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Council Horn.
Can you read the motion again?
Yeah, go ahead.
The motion would be to reduce the, let's see, it's project number FY26-POL-1. CIP request is coming out of the cash from 320,000 to reduce it by 38.5, which it's going to be time to do math.
I don't have enough fingers or toes.
Hold on.
281.5. So to change that to 281.5 for FY26.
One, you reduce the cash CIP for police vehicles by 38,500.
For the one backline vehicle, but leave in the 16,000 for,
281.5.
yep.
281,500. Okay, so the motion is to amend the 320,000 to $281,500. That was, any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Deja
No.
Counselor Sullivan,
Yes.
Counselor Horn,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot,
Yes.
Another memo.
Counselor Turner,
Yes.
Counselor Credo,
Yes.
Counselor Richardson,
Yes.
Counselor Hammond,
No.
Mayor Callahan.
No.
8-3 passes.
All right.
I have one.
Deja vu.
Thank you, Your Honor. On page 14 of the issues and options, there's a DPW administration position upgrade that had been excluded. The amount was $4,139. I would move that we include this. This, to me, seems like a very high ROI. It's a very low-cost thing to give some flexibility to staff to incentivize employees and help with retention. So I'd like to move to include that. Page 14, 15 on issues and options.
I'll second that so we can discuss.
Director Norris, you able to speak on that?
That's a split.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'll say what I said last Friday, reiterate that over the years, the incumbent employee in this position has taken on increased duties, very complex duties at Public Works, so that the duty set of this individual, this employee, is more intense than the other 4 positions that get paid the same. So it's a combination of that and desiring to create a career path. If hypothetically this employee leaves, I probably don't have another admin assistant who's willing to do that work, that much more work for the same pay. That's kind of the logic of this. There isn't a career path, and we have had high turnover. There's 2, maybe 3 of these admin assistant 2s that have gone through the department in the last couple of years.
Any follow-ups for Mr. Norris? Counselor Credo, then Counselor Fontenot.
Yes, Director Norris, I think it's fair to say that this position is highly valued, highly critical, and if we're, I look at all of this as a mathematical equation, right? So amount of money spent times likelihood, or divided by the likelihood that this position is going to fail and we're going to be out of a person, and the cost that might, entail, right? So I guess if we do lose this position, if we're not valuing that position and we lose that position, how much more money do you think that's going to cost the city, and how hard is it to find that position?
Well, if you're indicating if the employee turns over, I think you are, not the position, right, if the employee. Well, our other admin assistants are cross-trained, but they're not near as efficient in these complex tasks as the incumbent is. So could we do it? Yes, but it would cause some pain. It would take some time to become efficient again. I mean, there's a couple years training in these positions. And they're not trained overnight. There's a lot they do. So there is, it's more of a burden on management and, to hire, to train, and we would be less efficient for some time.
So I'm hearing it's a highly, you need a lot of training for the position. It's not easy to find them. And it sounds like without that, we're at risk of losing that position. And the cost is only $4,139.
Well, it is relatively low cost, yes.
Okay.
I'll just turn it over to the city manager because it came up in our workshop, and she explained why it was excluded.
Yes, I had stated, I believe that one of the reasons why I had excluded this issues and options was because, as presented, we had some concerns about if this was compliant with the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I would just ask that if council includes this, that would be with the understanding that, as implemented, it may not be exactly this classification that is presented in the issues and options, that we might bring forward something different or a different iteration that would be compliant with Fair Labor Standards Act. And also, after more analysis and looking at this, something that would have to also be something that would be in alignment with our merit track and making sure we're not causing other issues in terms of compression and other things. So I would just ask that council leave that flexibility in knowing that if you include this, we'd have the funding for it, we would pursue it, but it may not be exactly as presented the ultimate product for the classification.
Okay. Councilor Fontenot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so that's why I recalled that from the budget retreat. And I had started this page initially when we first heard thinking, well, that's an easy one to fund. But after hearing the city manager's explanation, thought, yeah, it's probably not something that we should be meddling in if they're able to clarify this at some point and want to come back for an additional $4,000 in funding. I don't think that's an issue at the time, but I would support the city manager's position of excluding it at this point until those issues are worked out.
I'll just turn it over to Director Conley for a second. Would this have to go in front of that employee personnel board we have?
Yes.
Before we did this too, or else, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they'll also need to be, like Katie referenced, City Manager Ambrose referenced, it's going to be a creation of a new job description, and we're talking about duties here with this individual, not things that are in the job description. The duties that are in the job description match the essential function that the current employee is under, so this would take a whole new job description and working with the union too.
Okay. Councilor Walker.
So what would be the ramifications of doing this? Just time, or is there going to be more money involved as far as when you do the merit system or whatever, or what's the consequences?
I would say the merit for salary would be very similar, as you're seeing here, the extra 4,000. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't.
You're supposed to know it all.
I know. Because this would be possible a reaction from union.
Okay. Okay, so this needs more administrative analysis, it sounds like. That's why it was kept out.
With that, I will withdraw my motion.
And I withdraw my second.
All right, we're out of, thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on. Councilor Herman, I'm sorry if I forgot you before. Go ahead. Just speak up into the mic so the...
In the capital improvement plan on page 18, we have the skate park.
Skate park?
Yes.
Okay.
Dover has one. Somersworth has one. Rochester has one, but Rochester is private. It's not city-funded. Do we need a city-funded one that might put a city business out of business. So I would move to remove this from the capital project.
Okay, that's under bond, correct?
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Counselor Walker, then Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, you realize this 35,000 bonding is just for studying what we would need to do. It's not the actual skateboard part.
Yes.
We should probably hear from the Recreation Department. Getting you on the spot. This is technically under.
Let's slow it down.
buildings. It's under buildings.
So this is a Recreation Department project. It's championed by them. So we had the old park at Hanson Pines that was removed years ago due to deterioration in structures and public safety. This request is for preliminary assessment, evaluation of sites and public engagement, also conceptual designs. It includes site evaluation, geotechnical survey, and public interface. So that's the first step. And the intention was for a municipal skate park. So I talked to a number of companies that did this sort of thing, and this is kind of like the progression that's recommended. You do public interfacing, you see, what level of support there is. You look at various sites, you rate them. There's a number of them in neighboring communities. They vary greatly in cost for various reasons. So if this was approved, we'd work with the Recreation Department to go through these evolutions, and then they would be put to the council the question, well, here's the estimate of what a park would cost. This is where we recommend it, or the areas we would recommend it for consideration. Does the council wish to proceed with actual construction? And as I say, the construction has varied greatly depending upon what municipality has done this.
Counselor DeJarbois, then Counselor Sullivan.
I think that if we're just doing a study, we should go ahead and do it. I mean, most kids who might take advantage of this may not have the means to get to Dover or Somersworth. I also think that, I'm generally in favor of doing more to provide good activities and things that our kids can engage in the city. So I'd rather do this, fund it for the 35,000, do the study, figure out, what is the demand and what would it cost, and then we make a decision from there. But I think we should continue with this.
Thank you. Counselor Sullivan and Counselor Credo.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, so I will say to Councilor Herman, I was looking for this one in the CIP, and I saw that it was bonded. It's not cash. So, one, how does that affect the budget if it's a bonded item? Yeah, so it doesn't, because I'm looking for, as I see it now, I think we're up about 42-ish thousand from where we started. So I'm looking for items to get back down to where we started. I don't think this, I understand what Councilor Herman's saying. I just don't think this gets us anywhere because it is that. It's not going to take anything in that number.
Thank you. Counselor Credo.
I retract, he already stole my question.
Counselor Fontenot.
So I agree that this doesn't do, by killing this, or it doesn't do anything for us immediately, but bonded simply means it's 35,000 plus interest. So, we pay for it eventually, or we pay for it over time. If I saw the $35,000 leading to something realistic, I would be more in favor of it. When I see 35,000 for a feasibility study, and then 200,000 for a design engineering, and then 2 million to build the park, and those are costs, we're estimating that over the next 3 years, if we went right straight forward with this thing. I'm pretty hesitant to spend $35,000 on a feasibility study of a $2 million park that I don't think I'll be able to support in 2 years from now.
I would just add that the Recreation Department came up with in the spring this year. They came out with their master plan, which was very well done. And if you looked at it, I think there were 8 projects that were surveyed and rated. Number 1 was the indoor pool, and number 8 was the skateboard park. So that came in last place. Not by much. There were like 3 of them that were all pretty tight, but that was 6, 7, and 8 were all pretty tight. By the way, I did research on a indoor pool, $37 to $40 million. Wow. So, yeah, a lot of money. Counselor Fontenot. Counselor Sullivan, go
No,
ahead.
thank you, yep. So, no, I appreciate what Councilor Fontenot said. I mean, I also was wondering why that small amount was bonded.
We'll turn that over. That's a question for Director Sullivan. I'm sure he's going to turn it
I
to
don't really, you
cash.
don't need to explain it to me, so if other people want to know, sure.
No,
but-
I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. If the council's deliberating cutting this completely out and not reappearing, then that is a motion that should be made, or just pushing it to FY '27, so then it would reappear next year and be vetted out by the capital improvement project committee next year. So that's an option. The reason why it was 35,000 bonded, it's assumed that it's, as Council Fontenot said, it's gonna go progression to the 2 million. But if we wanted to do the study, or push it to, 27 to have it that, or cut the entire project out, that's all. If you could clarify, whoever makes the motion, clarify that would be helpful.
Who made the motion?
Counselor Herman.
Do you want to rephrase it, and whoever, you seconded it, right, Counselor Fontenot?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to rephrase it that it is a complete removal from,
Okay.
complete removal from the budget.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second, okay. Any more? Deputy Mayor, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I would, I'll vote against cutting it completely. I know when my grandchildren were younger and we had the old skate park, it was something they used all the time. And were disappointed when it was taken out. I think it's a great recreational facility to have. I'll vote against cutting it completely. I'd be in favor of moving it out a year, but not cutting it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know anything about skate parks. I'm going to be the first person to admit it in this room. I was never a skateboarder. Do we have a skate park, a privately owned one, currently?
Counselor Herman said, I didn't know he
I
did.
believe it's.
Allen Street, on Allen Street.
So we do.
Red
You can
zone,
verify
something
it.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yes, we have one now. It's Red Alert, I believe,
Yep.
is the title of it. And I just wonder why the city is, if we put a good skate park in, we will effectively put that person out of business. I have no idea who that person is. I have no vested interest in it. But I doubt, since we have a skate park here, why do we need to have a public one?
Thank you. Any more discussion? Counselor Sullivan, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just in the interest of time, I also support what Deputy Mayor Hammond said, that I feel more comfortable just pushing it off a year, and then I imagine we have to vote for it again at that point. And I think you might get more support behind that to get to that, and we don't have to take 2 votes to get there. So I would respectfully ask that you would change it to that. That might
I'll
make it-
withdraw my second then, and if you want.
I will, that we should just put it off for a year.
Second.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the 35. Let's cut it out this year. CIP, and push it out to next year. Okay, any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Turner.
Yes.
Counselor Richardson.
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yes.
Counselor Hammond.
Yes.
Counselor Horn.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Counselor Deja
No.
Counselor Credo.
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
No.
Mayor Callahan.
Yes.
10 to 2. Passes.
Okay, Any more adjustments? Counselor Walker, then Counselor Richardson.
Yeah, CIP, School Department. Page 90. Now, you have the $270,000 for vehicle replacement upgrade, and you bond it. Typically, you don't bond vehicles. Can someone from the school department talk to this one?
Good evening. Realistically, it was just that we weren't able to accommodate it within the general fund. And so in order for us to have the vehicles that the operations staff is requesting, we combined all 3 vehicles into one bond.
The JCB, that's a backhoe,
Correct,
and you need a new one?
correct. We have a JCB that would be trading in. There's a trade on the old JCB for a new JCB. Regarding the JCB, however, I firmly believe that we will be able to, as I stated in my original presentation, I believe that we will be able to cover that particular vehicle from our surplus fund this year. However, that has not gone to Finance Committee or the school board yet.
Like I said before, typically, we don't bond vehicles because that came from the 70s when we bonded a pumper truck. And we retired the thing, gave it away to Gray Maine, and we're still paying the bond off on it. So I understand there's various bonds you can take, but it's still not good policy to fund vehicles by bonding.
I believe I requested a 5-year bond for that, so.
That's fine, but it's still, like I said, good policy that you don't bond vehicles just for that purpose.
I wasn't aware of that policy here.
Okay.
Did you want to make a motion?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we make that either cash or we cut it out completely. What's the,
Director Sullivan, if they make that cash, how does that,
Well, if you change the funding source from bond to cash, that would increase the school's operating budget by that 270. So then that would place the school side above the tax cap. Right now, they're currently 161 below it. So that would be the difference. They'd be 110,000 over the tax cap if you made that motion.
can you respond? Sure, go ahead.
I also mentioned that we have been able to solicit and receive a grant for the $30,000 passenger van. So I know off the bat that $30,000 would be removed from CIP.
make a motion that we cut 270 from this line?
Your second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion.
More of a
Mr.
clarification.
Sullivan.
Thank you, Your Honor. So you're saying to remove it altogether, not change it?
She said that she's getting a grant for one, and the other one, they believe they have money available for the backhoe. So, okay.
Councilor Fontenot.
So clarification, is that, I think I heard that you have a $30,000 grant to go towards the 12-passenger van. Does that cover the full cost of it?
It does.
So now we're down really to the purchase of a rack body truck? Is that a replacement vehicle? Is that replacing a rack body truck that's in service now, or?
Unfortunately, I don't have my Director of Operations here this evening, but I believe that this is the vehicle that has over 100,000 miles on it, but I can't be certain for sure.
And one more question.
Go
Your
ahead,
Honor.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Your Honor. So my other question was, the Director Sullivan had made the comment that that puts them above the cap. Or is that number that we're talking about including, if I recall correctly, last week, there was a $682,000 oversight that the school department missed? So that number at the cap, is that counting the 682, or are they really 682,000 more over the cap?
Now, the omission in the debt service was picked up by surplus in the health insurance, as they explained.
Okay.
So they're even, so there was no adjustment that was necessary. For this particular one, if you convert it to cash, there'll be a tax cap problem. If you just cut it from bond, they'd have to make arrangements to use the grant, and it was mentioned their FY '25 surplus. There's a small complication with that because in order to use the surplus, the vehicle would have to be purchased and delivered by 6/30. Otherwise, they will need to come forward with a supplemental appropriation to transfer that money to a multi-year fund to purchase it. I don't know what the lead times are on these types of vehicles. If you heard from our side, there's long lead times on just about everything we do, but that's an option for them. Just be prepared that that could just be a supplemental, and that should be an easy supplemental to do for them, unless they can order it and have it delivered by 6/30, 2025.
You want to respond to that? Go ahead.
That is actually not an issue. We've already had discussions with the vendor. We went to bid. We had discussions with the vendor. They are aware that we are not certain how we will be paying for it, but that we would be paying for it one way or another if we were to. And they can deliver. It will be delivered in time.
Okay. Councilor DiGiovanni.
So I'd just like to clarify, because we're really talking about just the rack body truck. Do we know what the cost of that alone would be? And is that less than the gap between the current budget and the tax cap?
It would be the $92,000 for the JCB would be coming out, and the $30,000 for the passenger van, which is 122. So whatever, the 270 minus the 122, with my quick math, is roughly 150, 148 for the full back,
And
the
Director
rack
Sullivan,
body.
how much did we have? How much room did they have below the tax cap right now?
$161,020.
Okay, thank you.
There's room to do that if you wanted to.
City Manager.
I just have a quick procedural question. The $30,000 grant, is that appropriated, or would that actually need to be changed, funding source as part of this from bond to grant?
We would have to, yeah, we would have, so at the time that these were compiled, we didn't have a response in regards to the grant application. We have since received approval for the grant, so I did know coming into this that there was an opportunity to remove that pending approval, which has since been granted.
Great. So I would recommend to council that the $30,000 appropriation still be included, but converted to grant as the funding source.
Do we need a motion to amend the?
So you got the JBC, you said you already have, the 30,000 grant is for the van. What about the rack body truck?
That we have no solution for other than grant funding or, based on your request, moving it to the operating fund for next fiscal year. You're referring to the rack body, correct?
Correct.
Yes. That is the only one that I don't have an opportunity to receive in time for the June 30th, nor I'll absorb it into the operating fund if that's what's determined, but I don't have any other method of paying for it right now.
Yeah, amend my motion to change that line from 270 to 30,000 and make that a grant for the funding source.
I'll just double check with City Manager and the Director of Finance. Is that a correct, appropriate motion to cover what they're saying is going to happen?
Well, I'm a little confused on the motion. It's saying you want to just leave $30,000 for grant?
And change it to a grant, not bonding.
Just $30,000?
$30,000.
And so the motion is to change the funding source to $30,000 for the passenger van, but you'd also then want to remove the balance?
Yes.
The 240,000? Okay.
And it's bonding, so it's not going to affect anything anyway.
Nope.
Councilor Sullivan. I mean, I ain't getting mixed up. Get you two mixed up.
So I'll second it and then discuss.
Discussion, go
So just for clarification, where you're leaving in the 30,000 to, so they cover the JCB, the passenger van is covered. You're eliminating the bond for
That'll be
the,
next year.
for the rack body and let them either pay for that cash or do it next year.
Yes, and what this, just to add on to that, they said they can find that money in the existing budget by June 30th for the rack body. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so
The
I think.
motion is, make sure, say it
The
again.
motion is to change the 270 to the 30,000 and the bond funding source to a grant.
And because Counselor Sullivan was your second, we stay with him, if you're amendable.
Yep,
Thank you.
second that.
Counselor Fontenot seconded that.
It's okay.
Yeah, it was already his second, though. He didn't make
I
a new
seconded that
motion.
one.
Yeah.
We're ready to roll call vote. Roll call. Whoa,
The
sorry.
motion still isn't clear. It should be remove $240,000 bond, change funding, 30,000 grant. That leaves 30,000.
That's what he said, yes. That's exactly
That's
what
what
I
you
meant.
do. You leave them with $30,000 grant to buy the passenger van.
Exactly what I meant.
Okay.
Yes.
May I actually just found the portion that the Director of Operations submitted when he submitted the CIP. May I just read the narrative for the rock bounty, please? Glasses on and off. In order to maintain efficient operations, ensure the safety and safety of staff and students, and comply with safety standards, the district is requesting the purchase of 3 vehicles. The purchase of a new rack body truck is a critical upgrade for the district's maintenance and operations team. The current vehicle is in use is outdated, inefficient, and costly to maintain, with increasing repair needs and safety concerns. The new rack body truck will provide the following benefits: increased load capacity. The rack body truck will have a significantly higher capacity for transporting tools, materials, equipment across district grounds, and improving efficiency in daily tasks such as moving supplies for maintenance and repairs. Improved safety. The new vehicle will meet current safety standards, reducing the risk of breakdowns and accidents due to worn-out components. This will help avoid potential accidents during operation, reducing liability and associated costs. Long-term savings. Investing in a new truck reduces ongoing maintenance costs and ensures more reliable operation over time. Our newer vehicle will also be more fuel efficient, further reducing operational costs.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no further discussion, roll call vote.
Counselor Turner.
Yes.
Counselor Hammond.
Yes.
Counselor Richardson.
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot.
Yes.
Counselor Credo.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Counselor Dejevois.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Horn.
Yes.
Mayor Callahan.
Yes. Motion carries. Counselor Richardson. You still school? I mean, you might be, I think he might have something else, school.
Not on school.
No, not school. I'm sorry, I made you jump up.
I'd like to make a motion to remove the, from building and zoning, the inspector's vehicle.
What page?
What page is
Yeah,
that
just
one
tell us what book and what page.
Page 42 in the CIP.
42.
The 38,000.
Yes, for 38,000.
I'll second that.
I think that it don't need anything special. They can take a retired police cruiser and use that. It doesn't need any special fit up.
Is Director Grant here?
42. Yeah, he's hiding. He's in the middle, blends in.
Kind of hard for me to hear in the background. Are we on CIP?
Yep, CIP, page 42.
Yeah, so that is to obtain a vehicle for the issues and options inspector, which would be electrical inspector, so the two kind of go hand in hand.
Wasn't my question, it's his.
I think the question was, can you use a retired police cruiser?
Yeah.
So we have done them in the past. It's going to depend if it's an actual cruiser, those things are heavy duty. Maintenance is kind of a burden on the police department. It just becomes a burden on us. We used to drive those things some years ago. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't mind it, but they are heavy duty vehicles and the expense to maintain them through the roof.
Counselor Sullivan and Counselor Walker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, so my follow-up was, so they go hand in hand. So if it were to pass that the new vehicle was not going to happen, you don't want the new inspector?
Well, it's going to be kind of hard to get job site unless they can, ride share with another inspector, but those don't typically always coincide as well. It's also a disservice to the contractors that are basically paying for our department.
Counselor Walker.
Well, first off, the inspector they're getting takes his place because he's doing all the inspections, so I don't think we want to do that. How many vehicles you got in your fleet now?
Currently, we have 4. We have an F-150, we have an Equinox, and 2 of the Ford Explorers. The Ford Explorers seem to be working well, and that's actually the price tag that's carried.
So you got 4 vehicles?
We got 4 vehicles. So we have a building inspector, we have a health officer, we have a plumbing and mechanical inspector, and then my office also houses the compliance officers. We do have 2 part-time compliance officers. One's Monday through Wednesday, and the other one's Wednesday through Friday. So yeah, they're ride sharing or somebody's doing office work. I have one of those particular officers that technically do a lot of the compilation of the reports that we see at Codes and Ordinance, as well as also we have a lot of court time and paperwork to process. So it works out great with the way that we have those. And again, thanks to council for supporting that years ago to make that a reality. Having those retired police officers have been really what the city's needed all along.
So the 2 part-time share 1 cruiser.
Excuse me?
The 2 part-timers share that 1 car.
They do. They share one. Currently, right now, I'm driving my old 12-year-old GMC GMC Sierra 2500. Not exactly fuel efficient, and honestly, I haven't been putting for miles on it either.
Okay, Counselor Fontenot, then I think it's Counselor Richardson, and then you, Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my question was how many vehicles you had compared to how many inspectors that you have, or how many people that you have using them. And I'm thinking, I know that a certain amount of the work, I mean, obviously the inspections are done in the field, but a certain amount of the work is done in the office. Currently, do they do any, other than the 2 compliance, do the other departments do any swap-off stuff? Does the plumbing inspector ever use the health inspector's vehicle or that type of thing, or are they kind of reserved for themselves, or?
So the plumbing and mechanical inspector is typically the busiest guy. His car is used pretty much exclusively by him. He was on vacation last week, so that was my car. The health inspector is one that's pretty much about 50-50 in the office and out. And the compliance officers, I mean, they can be called out at any given time. To be real effective, they should be driving around looking for problems, if you will, and then coming back to the office to correct them. If you're asking about scheduling as far as trying to share a car, I mean, there are some months where that works out as a reality, but the things with the construction is the busiest season is when it's thawed. And so to try to do it for half the year, absolutely, but the other half, it's really nothing we could be able to juggle.
Thank you. I think it was Counselor Richardson and Counselor Sullivan.
So the end result is we cannot use a police cruiser to do this job?
We can, we're just be increasing my budget for maintenance, that's all.
Certainly not 38,000.
Excuse me?
You certainly wouldn't be a $38,000 increase.
Over the lifetime of the vehicle, perhaps.
You're going to maintain a new vehicle, too.
Again, these are heavy-duty vehicles. They don't take regular brakes. They don't take regular shocks, you name it. We have done that in the past practices. We have done just that, but we found it wasn't viable over the years.
Yeah.
Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, no, I was gonna, something that Director Grant brought up about the part-time positions, but I think I'll save that for later, not tonight. We can do it on another night. Was gonna point out, though, hearing that, this is an item that I had highlighted because it comes out of O&M cash. I think it's a good idea. I was gonna just propose as an alternative of the rec is asking for two 250s or 2,500 vehicles. We could remove one of those, which I think results in 60,000. It's a bigger cut. But just to let you know on that, but I still support the 38.
You support the 38 cut or support?
But I still support Councilor Richardson's
Okay.
motion.
Counselor Walker.
Well, seemingly, the new body for the electrical inspector is going to need a vehicle to go around. The vehicle you use, is that your personal vehicle or is that a city vehicle?
That's my personal vehicle.
And that there is not a good idea either. So I'm going to oppose this motion because the electrical inspector needs to have a vehicle to get around.
Counselor Richardson.
Can I withdraw that motion until after we discuss this rec center?
Sure, you can withdraw it, and whoever seconded it would have to withdraw. He said he didn't want to.
I wasn't going to
You-
motion it tonight, but I was going to point out that there is a more expensive vehicle.
Okay, do you want to withdraw your motion?
We'll withdraw the motion for now.
Are
yeah.
you going to withdraw a second in there now?
I'll withdraw the second.
Oh, okay, all right, good. That's off the table then. Moving on to another vehicle. Go ahead, Counselor Sullivan.
Oh, you want me to make this motion? Yeah.
Back to the page.
Put me on the chopping block. All right, so, okay, I'll make the motion, I guess, and then I'll speak to it if I get a second. So, yeah, the rec department does have two vehicles. It's a little, the city manager is very good at what she does. That's what I'm trying to find out. The city manager is very good at what she does. There's one that's included. It's a CIP under rec. Hold on. I think it says it's 55,000. I can't find it here.
Starts at 82, so.
Rec vehicle program.
Yep.
It's 60,000.
Page 82.
82? I like how the page numbers are listed in that other one. So it says, I think, it's asking in 26 for two additional 2,500 pickup trucks, 55 each, for a total and a 10,000 extra, so 65. City manager put 60,000 in 26, 67,000 in 27, so I'm not 100% clear on how it was divided up. Maybe she could explain.
Go ahead, Director Sullivan.
Only $60,000 was adopted for one vehicle. The second vehicle was pushed to FY '27. So there's only one vehicle. And that one vehicle is, the 60,000 is a little short from the 65 that they had requested. But we'll figure out through operating or other reduction in their budget to get them the other 5,000 to purchase that one 2,500 pickup.
And this was an additional, this isn't to replace that other one, because they already have it's pretty old, 2014.
We'll call the Recreation Department up here.
No, it's two additional, it says right
Yeah,
in the.
it's not to replace, that's what I'm
request.
saying.
Two
So
additional.
I don't think he really made a motion.
Yes, so good evening. So yes, you are correct. So for this FY '26, we were looking at one additional vehicle. We had requested two because this kind of, as Director Grant said, this kind of coincides with that facility and ops attendant second position that we're looking to add to our budget. So this would require us to have that extra vehicle for them to be able to travel around. So, and then in the following FY '27, we would be replacing our original truck from 2015 with another vehicle as well then. So that's kind of the breakdown of it.
Gotcha, thank you. Yeah.
Any questions for Tripp in there when he's up here? We still need a second.
You got a motion out there? I'll second it for discussion.
All right, second for discussion. I was under the impression that there's one. I mean, that there was two, but there's only one.
All right, so you don't want to make a motion?
Well, it's been seconded, so.
You haven't really made a motion yet.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
Yeah, I'll withdraw. Yeah.
There's nothing there, okay. Thank you.
Thought you were going to ask, see if they can use the backup police.
Thank you. Anything else?
What's this plowing?
Anything else? Counselor Walker?
Yes, school department again.
All right.
CIP or budget?
Let's talk the jewel money. How many
Sure.
positions do we,
No, you can ask those questions.
how many positions do we have that are funded by the jewel money?
We currently have 2. We have 5 that have been budgeted in FY '26.
5 haven't budgeted for this year?
FY '26, this upcoming budget, yes. 2 of them have been employed already this fiscal year.
He wants to know what those 2 positions are.
Our Family and Community Engagement Director and our Director of Positive Youth.
Director of,
Positive Youth and Positive Youth Development, correct.
so how much the jewel grant in total? You got 6 million for the jewel grant?
So thus far, we have received 3.875 million. We are scheduled to receive another $380,000 in fiscal year '26 and another $380,000 in fiscal year '27. So a total of, a total of $4.6 million.
So right now, all you have is the 3.87 million.
Correct.
And how many of that is obligated at the moment with these positions?
Well, some of it's been used already this fiscal year. And we've also bought equipment this fiscal year. For next year, $309,000 is the total for the 2 employees that are currently employed at the Rochester School District. So that is committed funds in one way or another.
309,000,
Correct.
2 people.
Correct.
And you have 3.87 million. What are we using the rest of this jewel money on?
You can give them the update.
So we've already spent $1.3 million on cameras. We've spent $84,000 on 2-way radios, $74,000 on vape detectors, $9,000 on a substance use prevention speaker, and $6,800 on a workshop at the middle school called Peers Not Fears. It's a leadership program for at-risk students. That's all been expended thus far.
So you had a speaker,
Correct.
a person, a body.
Correct. Approved by the Jewel attorneys.
So,
Just so the council knows, they provided us with a memo, a link, and all this stuff is in that link today, in the Excel spreadsheet, all of it.
There's a tab called Jewel, and it kind of shows you, I think I know what you'd like to discuss here. So if you open the link, anything in red is non-committed, and anything in green is committed.
what link are you talking about?
Director Sullivan.
So the original budget memo that I sent out, the links were broken, but I sent that attachment specifically to all council people as an individual attachment from the school, and I fixed the links and resent that. So there's 2 ways you can get it, through your email, or if you have the revised budget format memo, the links to the shared drive work. And in there is a spreadsheet from the school that's very detailed. It has many tabs. There's one in it that has all the explanation of the Jewel.
So to kind of like guide you a little bit without having looked at this worksheet yet, the items that I identified in red that were expanded out through a 5-year period that have not been hired for totals $2,092,405. So of the Jewel money anticipated, 2 million of that was allocated to future positions. No one has been hired for those positions yet.
Well, usually, not usually, you shouldn't use grant money for positions, that's bad fiscal policy. So you got 300. You're saying 309,000? And it's 159,331 and 153,004 for those two positions.
Correct. Oh, sorry. 312. I'm adding on paper. I don't have a calculator here.
Make a motion that we cut 312 out of the operating budget for these salaries.
A second.
Discussion, so you're talking, you want to take it out of their general fund budget?
That's
Well,
this operating budget, right?
No,
This is where they put it, right?
no, it's allocated in the Juul settlement, the 300.
Can't cut the Juul settlement, but you got positions funded, so that is in your operating budget.
No, sir. The two positions, the FACE and the Director of Positive Youth, are with approval from Finance, School Board, and the Juul attorneys, currently slated for Juul settlement money to be used to cover their salaries. They're not in the operating budget. If we cut the operating budget by that much, I don't have, the positions are not in the operating budget. They're only in the Juul settlement budget.
How do we cut the Juul settlement budget?
well, this is in legal terms, okay, because it is Juul money, it's Juul attorneys. The school's working on it with our city attorney, and I think we'll have some resolution probably by the end of this week on that Juul money. Is there anything you want to say about that? You were the acting superintendent? Of what you plan to do with it, Drew? So I think you're going to answer
I'm
his
not
question.
the acting superintendent. I don't want that role.
Dr. Bryan, why don't you just say what you're working with the school board
Sure.
on?
We're looking at, there were some positions initially that were slated for the Juul settlement funds. We've relooked at those positions and looked at our operating budget and looked at how we can potentially move some of those positions into the operating budget. We're hopeful to free up a good portion of the Juul settlement funds to help support the sports complex project that we're working on as well. So that's the work that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. We met with our finance committee last week. It will go to our full board meeting on Thursday for more discussion with the full board.
So when we meet next Tuesday, we'll probably have the answer on how much money that changing from 3 million in grant funding to another source. So it won't be bonded. Excuse me, changing it from 3 million in bonding to the grant. Any more? We have the school up here. Any more questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about it? So my question, I think it's probably more for the city manager, but, so let's say that this money is coming out of what Councilor Walker's asking. How does that reflect into the city budget? They're separate in the way they're presented. So there's the school is coming in at whatever below the cap, and we are coming in at whatever below the cap. If Councilor Walker was to take 300,000, it's a rough number, off of that school budget, how does that reflect back to the overall, like the city budget?
I think probably the easiest way to view this would be almost like grant funds, even though they're settlement funds, so it wouldn't impact tax cap. I think the alternative that's being discussed is the funding that is not being allocated for positions, repurposing that to a CIP project potentially that would be bonded otherwise. So you'd have that future savings in that sense, but not reallocating settlement funds that are allocated for positions currently because they're not in the budget currently, so that wouldn't be a savings in terms of tax impact. Does that make sense?
Kind of, yeah.
So if the school repurposes this $3 million that they have in CIP bonding to, we'll say, combination of Juul funds and city Juul funds, that 3 million, that's the average cost savings on the 20 years on this bond. That's $250,000 a year for 20 years. So that's $5 million.
They would have to use it for something else that is approved for the purposes of the settlement funds as approved by the attorneys. Also, the school board would need to approve those uses. And I'm not certain in these specific cases, that would be up to the attorneys, but often at times we'll find that for funding that we receive, we can't use it to supplant our budget. Oftentimes they like to see it used for something new. I'm not sure if that's the specific case of what legal counsel has advised as far as that goes, but that is a consideration that we often have to face.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, there is not $3 million left to spend. There's,
Right. Just under 2.1, 2.09.
correct.
Yeah.
So theoretically, yes, if we, at the end of the day, if we wanted to fund part of the sports complex CIP bond with Jewel funds, $2,092,000 is available to do so. So we would have to then find $907,595 left to do the projects that we presented on the sports complex.
Counselor Walker.
So the two positions that you use Jewel money for your budget, they're funded till June 30th, correct?
This fiscal year, they were funded with Jewel funds, and next fiscal year, the anticipation was that they would remain Jewel funded, so they were not included in the operating budget. So while we have $2.4 million remaining, 312,000 of that are for two positions that if I pull them from the Jewel settlement for FY26, I don't have funding for them. I would have to find the $312,000 in the operating budget. Does that make sense?
Go ahead.
So it sounds to me like, well, one, the mayor has stated that they might have more information next week.
Right.
Overall, the school budget issue is interesting because really all we can do is set a number. So we talk about what we don't necessarily agree with in the budget or how we'd like to see it change, but that's all just putting it out there for the people who actually make those decisions to make those decisions. And, it's not pressure, it's on them to figure out how they want to do it. But I guess it's some rationale and where you're coming from. But I guess my suggestion would be, if Councilor Walker would, entertain it. I think we might have more information next week. I'm in full support of trying to find, like I said, so far we're going in the wrong direction. We're going up 10 so far, and I'm trying to get 100,000 plus somewhere for this veterans credit that nobody seems to be trying to find any money for. So I think that we should probably wait and see how we can get money back in, but I'm full support of trying to find that money. And if you were willing to, I think maybe we could do it next.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear the plan. Just there's a $312,000 cut coming.
Bring
Counselor
popcorn.
Walker, you going to withdraw the motion?
Absolutely. I didn't get a second
Second it?
anyway, I don't believe.
I seconded it.
He seconded
I
it.
seconded, so I'm
Next
withdrawing
week, we'll
myself.
get the final numbers, but there will be
There
a
was some
312 cut coming.
Just more clarity. There was some confusion during your presentation last week where some of the councilors heard that you had positions that were budgeted as grant and also as general fund budgets. I think what you meant to say is what happened is you had positions that originally were grant positions and you realized that they didn't qualify for the grant position, so you had to put them in your general budget.
So that is a separate subject than the Jewel funds.
Oh, no, you're talking about Jewel funds.
Okay,
You're talking
so
about-
yes. And as I said in my presentation, I included them in the operating fund for two reasons. Number one, I didn't know if those positions would be approved and qualify for using grants money. And number two, I wouldn't know how much we are getting in federal grant money until July. So in order to ensure that the positions that we can maintain those positions, they needed to be in both. And so now that we know that they don't qualify for grant funding, I'm happy that they're also in the operating budget because that would be a really big deficit to cover.
Okay. How many new positions do you have? Because you had that in your presentation last week.
So,
and why don't you explain what they are, because some of us don't really understand. Climate control positions. Let's start with that.
so if you're referring to the ones that we were hoping to get grant funding for, There are 8 culture and climate specialists, 6 instructional coaches, 6 wellness coaches, a licensed drug and alcohol counselor, a grant accountant, and a grant writer. What the 3 educational ones do, I defer to Alice, to Dr. Bryant.
Sure. The instructional coaches are really just that. They are working with our teachers on instructional strategies. One of the things we've found in public education right now is that there's many different pathways to the classroom, and they don't always include a traditional teacher education program. And so in order to ensure that our teachers have everything they need, we really have felt like adding instructional coaches to our staff is crucial. This was a request by our administrators. Our teachers are excited about it as well, so it feels like a really important time to provide that support to our teachers. The climate and culture specialists and the wellness instructors both are really focused on our behavior and social emotional learning, so those needs for our students as we're working on our discipline in our schools and ensuring that our students are ready for learning and kind of working through those hurdles and really understanding that we've struggled a little bit with behavior in our schools. If you look at the data for our schools, we're higher than the state average, and in an effort to support our students and our teachers, again, for being ready for instruction. Those are 2 positions that support our students' needs in the moment.
Counselor Walker.
Are any of those positions in place now?
No, they are not.
You have a dollar value for these positions? You don't have to give them to me now. You can put them in a memo and bring them with the rest of the...
They are in the original packet that you received. The dollar amount, including benefits, is $1.9 million.
And I should add, just to your previous question, we have a sort of a version of the culture and climate specialist at the high school right now, which has been a very positive support. So we're looking at a model of something that's worked at Spalding High School and looking to replicate that in our other buildings. But it's a little bit different. We're trying to really fine tune what that position would look like.
Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. So I have a couple questions, if you could. So with the closing of 3 schools over 2 years, essentially, did any of those positions move into those? So it seems like you're creating positions, a bunch of people moved, there should have been some, so.
That is actually how we were able to fund them within the operating budget, were positions that were in one particular school that as we closed the school and absorbed them into other schools, they also accepted positions within the school, accepted positions that were already budgeted. So that savings there is how we're covering the $1.9 million.
And so was that, so the position they went from, so employee X, who was at one of the schools that was closed, moved over into one of these, was that original position eliminated from the budget?
No.
No.
No, because that is how we're funding the $1.9 million. So if I had a math teacher at McClelland, and I had a 3rd grade teacher at East Rochester, at the time that we imported the budget, both of those individuals were imported into the budget. This teacher left. This teacher slid into this position. So now this position is vacant and budgeted.
Yeah,
and that's how I'm funding the 1.9.
School board thing when you went over that. So my thing is, so that position is vacant and funded. So are you going to eliminate it? Like, I don't understand. If that position is not needed anymore, it was at the previous school, a 3rd grade teacher at the McClellan or whatever school you said. Why did you keep it?
So the vacant position is now funding one of the wellness or culture and climate positions.
Get it. So it's an unfunded position that's created? The former 3rd grade McClellan teacher that you plan to be vacant for, foreseeable future.
Would have been
forever.
vacant.
That position still exists, or you just moved those? I'm saying, so why don't you just
That
move the
position no
funding?
longer exists, and now,
Okay, so you
but
did
that
eliminate the
person is
position.
slated,
Yeah.
so it's not, that person, in order for us to have everybody have a job, we needed to have those vacancies to fill them, though.
Understood. And my other question was, what is the comparable, so a culture and climate specialist or whatever it's called? What is that? How does that compare to a teacher salary, a starting teacher salary? You know, are those, is it the same? Is it double? These are non-classroom positions essentially, right? They're counselors.
I would have to get back to, I hid those columns on my spreadsheet, so.
Seems to me, I mean, I don't know enough details I'd like to know, but it seems like a bunch of positions were made that aren't classroom positions. I don't think, I mean, I just don't, not my place to make the decisions, but the whole thing, looking at it and listening to the school board meetings and that, it just seems like, I don't know, these aren't the positions that I think the city should be funding.
I will say that at the beginning of the budget process, we had a workshop with all of the school administrators, and everybody broke off into separate committees and kind of made their lists of what they felt their needs were within the schools and what was lacking. And all of the groups had this, the ones that we're presenting are what all of the groups had in their separate needs assessment. And so what we did was with the ones that were not duplicated, or the ones that we, as a group, decided that they weren't needed, are the ones that we didn't include. And then the ones that cumulatively they felt that was needed and that would be helpful in the schools are the ones that we kept.
Did the school board approve that?
Yes, sir.
So I think, Mr. Mayor, I think we should probably just move on from this until next week.
I'll make
Until
sure there's no
next
more
week.
questions. Any more? Okay, thank you very much.
I have
Is
one
there,
more.
you got one more? Go ahead.
Only because I kind of popped Councilor Richardson's balloon there with the 38. But I was going to make this proposal, and I've learned from my previous one that I should try to get the removal before getting the addition. So I was going to say, from what I heard, Commissioner Grant doing the work of the electrical inspector, and he's using his personal vehicle, which is another thing. So I was going to propose in this order that we fund that electrical inspector position for a half year, which would result in 28,542, whatever the math is, less, and then we can try to move in that, I mean, we can leave that vehicle in there, but I was wondering if you might be able to move it down to 30,000, but I don't know if that particular vehicle is 38,000 or if that was an estimate. That would allow Director Grant, to have a vehicle, a city vehicle to use for his work, which I think is appropriate. It gets him the electrical inspector that he needs just 6 months later than is in the budget now.
Second, is there a motion to second that? What's that? Clarification, go ahead.
So, Council Sullivan, did you say you wanted to half-year fund the full-time electrical inspector?
Yeah.
Because it's already
Oh, it's already
half-year
half-year,
funded.
yeah.
So,
Then-
you can't hire that position until January 2026.
Yeah.
The vehicle issue, I think Director Grant can explain that.
No, I understand that. I understand that. I don't want to change that. Then I'll just bring back Councilor Richardson's motion to get rid of that vehicle, so 38,000.
Second.
Discussion.
I'll speak to that.
Counselor Fontenot, then Counselor Walker.
So I think especially considering the fact that that electrical inspector position is a half-year fund, I mean, it's not going to start until January 1st of next year. And Director Grant really indicated that it's about 6 months out of the year that vehicle, that the full line of vehicles is really needed. That's when the inspections are busy. And they're probably busy from April 1st on, but I think that gives us, April, May, June gives us about 3 months of busy season next year that they're going to be maybe scrambling a little bit with vehicles. But I think if we can save $38,000 off of this budget, fund that vehicle next year so that it starts July 1st of 2026. That's right? Am I in the right year? Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah. So it starts next year anyways. So the new electrical inspector will come in on January 1st and go 6 months without his own vehicle, and then we fund it in next year's budget.
Mr. Grant.
I'd just like to remind you that I'll be driving my 2500 until then. Okay?
Yeah. Counselor Walker.
I mean, that's, right, what I'm seeing is nitpicking. I don't think that's advisable. We have the director that doubles as an inspector. He's out there with his own personal vehicle. This is building season right now during the summer months. And he's gonna be busier than a one-armed paper hanger. And I don't think, the whole purpose of putting this position in the first place was to alleviate his workload, and that new inspector needs a vehicle to run, because he's using his own vehicle. So I'm voting against this. This isn't right.
And I just want to add, that I brought up in our workshop, is that the state law is going to pass. If you don't have these inspections done within a certain time, then they can hire their own. Then the city has to pay whoever that contracted person was that did the inspection, then we still have to go out and inspect it.
Yep.
So we're fooling around. I think we're fooling around.
So I'm going to withdraw my second because really, it was based on I was basing this on the assumption that that new vehicle was strictly for the new position when it starts. And when it's clarified that, no, that new vehicle is going to replace his own personal vehicle, then no, I'm going to withdraw the second on that.
Who was and you're going to withdraw it?
No,
Okay.
but it probably won't be seconded, so.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Herman,
No.
Counselor Fontenot,
No.
Counselor Hammond,
No.
Counselor Turner? No. Counselor Walker?
No.
Counselor Credo?
No.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yes.
Counselor Horn?
Yes.
Counselor Richardson?
Yes.
Counselor Dejevois?
No.
Mayor Callahan?
No.
Fails 3-8.
Okay. Any more motions? Any more discussions? We'll be back at, we have a public hearing. Counselor Richard, you got your hand up?
Oh, I still got some more.
Oh, good, go ahead.
This
Just
one,
tell us what book you're in so we don't get confused.
I am in the CIP.
Yeah.
And I got some confusion
What
here.
department?
I'm on, let's see, we're going to be in Public Works on page 63. All right, there's city engineer SUV for $34,000 here, and I understand, it looks like this must be a split between the three departments.
63.
Yes, that's the split between the three departments.
Okay. Then we have that, I believe it's the same vehicle, shows up in the water department, but it's $36,000. And then it's repeated in the sewer department at $36,000 for the same.
What pages?
Okay, so it'd be at page 102, would have, we'll have a city engineer vehicle at $36,000.
That's an expensive light SUV.
And then it appears to be repeated on page 141 for the city engineer vehicle at $36,000.
Thank you, Director Norris.
So the value of that vehicle is 36, but it's split several ways, and perhaps it was not annotated that way here. I'm looking at, I'm sorry, Counselor, what page did you say that was?
Okay, so we have it on page 63. It shows them on 63, page 102, and 141. But on page 63, it's listed at $34,000. The other two, it's at 36.
It should be 36, split several ways.
Okay.
That must be a typo. Yes, 36, split general, water, and sewer funds, 3 ways.
12, 12, 12.
Does this,
Is it 12, 12, 12, or is that $100 and something thousand SUV?
12, 12, 12.
We'll just have Director Sullivan take a look at it for a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a minute because there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vehicles in that budget. And the appropriation, the city manager appropriation was 554,000. So if you want to give me a couple minutes so we can go through that, move on to something else, and then we'll get an answer back.
Yeah, just for our budget adjustments next Tuesday, if you have something like this that you think is kind of a clerical issue, just bring it up to the finance director or city manager ahead of time, so we're not in a position like this. That's a good catch. It's a real good catch.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Mayor, about that? It's a request more. If budget items, memos, et cetera, links that everybody's being referred to, those should be sent more than a day in advance. I don't know about all the other counselors, but I have a full-time job, so I can't check my email regularly all day. And for those, the information to come out at 12:30 today is basically unacceptable. So I think those should be put out at least a day in advance so that we can check our email and review them. So, but I appreciate the overlooking the form that you asked us to fill out to submit for that. But we do need some advance information or some notice so we can.
I'll let city manager address it, but I think, go ahead.
Sure, so typically the memos are sent on a weekly basis. So usually if you have a meeting on a Tuesday, it would be around the Friday timeframe, so you at least have the weekend, knowing that oftentimes the content in the memos require research by staff and time. So today was the fastest we could compile that information for council in advance. We're not expecting you to necessarily make a decision on that tonight based off of that. But that was the soonest, knowing that the questions were raised on Friday, that we could generate those and get those out to you. But typically it's a weekly basis and we give you more than a day's notice. It's just the timing with the budget retreat doesn't line up per your usual meeting schedule.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Are the forms that we requested to use new this year?
The forms themselves are not new. I believe that they were edited to be a little bit more clear. I think we tried to make them more simple this year. They've been a little bit confusing in years past with how the motions should be worded. So the vehicle themselves is not new, but they've been revised.
Thank you. I just think that this is probably the most important thing the city council does. You're spending every residence of the city's tax money. You know, we should have time to think about it, have those things and get that stuff out. I think, I'm just asking in advance if we can have it at least a day ahead of the next meeting.
You're going to get it probably by, go ahead, Director
We can do
Sullivan.
that. The turnaround time in this case, as city manager, was Friday, and it is Tuesday. That's why there was such a tight turnaround, and there's a lot of information to compile. But the goal would be to get the following items from this meeting out. There's going to be another tight turnaround, but get it not tomorrow, by Thursday. So you have the whole weekend, and then Tuesday to review everything.
You have the response for the vehicles?
No, I got sidetracked, sorry.
You got sidetracked. Oh. See, you sidetracked them. All right, everybody be quiet right now.
So it's either the most expensive light SUV you've ever seen at $105,000.
We can tell right, that's just a notation error in the way it was written.
You sure it's not in the line, the total amount for the allocation?
I thought Director Norris was going to get up there and say it was a Cybertruck.
In other words, is that number right?
He knew my pen, yeah.
Bottom line one?
So we have multiple splits in this. We have 270, if you want to refer to the page in the CIP book, page 63, we have 270,000. And I'm going to calculate this out, 270,000 plus, that was for the 1 ton, the 6-wheel dump truck. The 1 ton was 75,000. The next one is again, that's a split, general fund, water, sewer fund. So the 237,500 was also split 3 ways, but it didn't represent that in the narrative. So if you take that vehicle and divide it by 3,
You're telling me that one truck is a $237,000 truck?
Yes, but it's divided up over
I understand how it's
general
divided.
fund, water fund, and sewer fund. But
My question is that 237 accurate? Should it be a third of that number, which means your bottom line on top?
what I'm saying is the 237,500 should be split three ways, so the general fund piece is $79,166. The sewer piece is same amount,
Yeah.
and the
And
water
that comes
piece
out
is
of
the
the
same
water
amount.
fund. So is this number correct, or is this one over?
That number is correct, and that's what I was gonna bridge back to. Because I wanna bridge back for you to the 554. But it's, you know,
I just want to make sure we're not overinflated there and.
nope, you're not overinflated. And then the other truck is clear, that was 100% general fund. That's the 69R Tech Hotbox 67, 100% general fund. One underneath it, highway lead service truck with plow and sander, 97,000, that was 100% general fund. And the last one is 34,000, or Director Norris corrected it, it was 36,000 split three ways, so that would be a $12,000 piece to the general fund, 12,000 to the water, 12,000 to the sewer. But if all of the math works out, when I add all those pieces up, and I can do it real time, we should equal 554. And I'll have my partner here double check my calculator.
I'm good.
And we don't. So we need to go back and look at that because it's off by $50,000.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So give us time to dig through it with Director Norris, and and when I say off $50,000, I mean it's $50,000 short. So we have to go and itemize all these vehicles again and the splits and the amounts, and make sure that the amounts that we're splitting are accurate numbers, and where did the 554 originate from? So can that be a follow-up item for our next
Absolutely.
meeting? Thank you.
For next week. Good catch.
A really nice catch.
Before we leave this page, could, maybe Director Norris could talk to us about replacing the number 6 dump truck with 60,000 miles on it for $270,000.
This truck is our last International. We bought Internationals in the early 2000s. Economically, they were least expensive at the time, but over the long haul, they were very problematic. We now source Mack trucks only from several vendors. So we have 15 large trucks. This is the last International. We actually attempted to, we requested to replace this several years in the past. In FY '22, '24, and '26, but other trucks kept dying around it, so it came up this year. We wanted to replace it last year, but we ended up putting a lot of money into 20, or putting money into 6 rather, so we switched it to 20 to replace last budget, and so this budget 6 is due. I have photos of it if you'd like to pass them around. I had the photos made for the CIP committee, didn't have to use them. Yeah, I can put my fist through several places on it.
About what year is it from?
So that is, I believe, a 2008. Number 6, it's 2008 International.
Thank you.
Any follow-up while he's up here? All right, you all set? Councilor Richardson.
My understanding, the city engineer does not have a vehicle to use at the
That's
moment.
correct, Counselor.
He does not.
He does not.
And you also are going to be needing a vehicle for the chief operator for wastewater?
Right.
And what does he need a vehicle for?
To perform his duties. Our campus there is very large, and there are the various pump stations we have. So,
And again, there's nothing we can use in the fleet that he can just use.
The vehicle we had for the last chief operator actually went up to the main facility with the pump station crew that transferred from the wastewater treatment facility up to our main facility. We've been adding positions over the last 4 budgets through the workforce master plan.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Counselor Sullivan?
Thank you. I guess just since all the directors are here, I was wondering if I could ask Director Grant a question about, to make sure I'm understanding the budget correctly. I'm trying to find it in here. You might just be able to answer it for me. Director Grant, so it was about I noticed in here that there were 2, and you mentioned them earlier, so that's why I'm circling back. There were 2 part-time, I think they're traffic positions. Is that correct?
My 2 part-time positions are code compliance officers.
That were code compliance officers? I'm trying to find those. I think it was those. Are those
50,000.
50,000 a year each, and those are part-time? Is that correct?
I don't have those numbers. I don't think it's broken out on my sheet, but perhaps Mr. Sullivan can answer that.
There's a schedule in the O&M
Oh, I got it, yeah,
for business building licensing. Trying to find the exact page.
Yeah, I got it. So it's
Okay.
page 90.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
You
So
see
I
the
just
breakdown
wondering-
of the positions there.
So is that correct? Those are 24 hours a week?
Yeah, that is correct. They're both scheduled for 24 hours a week. They overlap on Wednesdays.
And I noticed that those are higher than some full-time staff in your divisions. I'm wondering, are there special certifications, or what does a compliance officer in the city need?
So a compliance officer is basically enforcing the general ordinances within the city of Rochester, particularly into the zoning sections. Yes, as far as knowledge goes, these folks are in and out of court an awful lot. The actual serving of entering somebody's property is right up along with the lines of a police officer. And yes, that's exactly what these 2 are. And also just as well, going with those 2 part-time positions, although I do support full-time positions and paying for health insurance and so on like that. However, in these situations, they're already provided by the spouses of these 2. And as well, we're not paying those other roll-up costs as well. So in my opinion, those 2 offices probably give the best bang for the buck in our department.
So does a building inspector require a certification?
A building inspector requires what's called the B1 and B2 and B3 exams through ICC.
Does the health inspector require certification?
The health inspector also requires certification for ServSafe, as well as he's also the accessibility inspector as well for, again, for ADA needs.
And I'm trying to remember, what was the full year salary of an electrical inspector that we're adding?
The electrical inspector with the complete roll-up cost, I believe, was around 111,000.
So a compliance officer doesn't require any certification?
As far as certifications, they can obtain one if they like. It's not a requirement. Again, their years of being a police officer pretty much speaks for itself, and that direct line of work, that's honestly above and beyond any certification that would ever be obtainable by ICC.
Okay, yeah. I'll have to go through the budget and look again. I mean, it seems like a very high salary for a part-time employee in the city compared to other part-time employees if it doesn't require any certification. But I'll look through the rest of it and I'll bring it up next week.
Do you know what they do?
Yeah, well, you explain to me what they do. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, hearing none without any objection, I adjourn the meeting.
Let it be written, so let it be done.